Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
The NASCAR Peak Anti-Prix Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93, 39, the 30 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go. As you love it,
here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around, the 5 gets around. Big jump.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to round number 11 of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from Okayama International Circuit. Of course, as always, before the drivers go racing, they first have to go qualifying, and that is what is happening right now. Hello everyone, Williams-Toyota here on RaceSpotTV. We'll get ourselves right to the action, and you will see live qualifying times there on the side of your screen. Provisional poll right now is Enzo Benito with a time of 1 minute 8.230, as we've got a number of cars on the racetrack right now. Having a look at Alex Simpson, currently scored in the 16th place in qualifying, hasn't yet set a time, working himself on his outlap at the back end of the racetrack. Ilka Hapana also on a lap right now in the number 23 car. And of course, we have got a number of people who are desperately looking to get themselves a good qualifying. One of those is Hugo Luis. He is not out yet on the racetrack. We will let you know the moment he does. But it is currently Benito from Conque. There are your fastest 2 drivers as it stands right now. And Harpana, you see, he is working himself on a lap. We've got Yorni Tamada on a lap as well, running himself in the 7th position on the racetrack, right on board with him. Working themselves through this uphill 180-degree right-hander, now down onto the back straightaway. Fastest section of the racetrack, and then things get really tight in technicals. We'll stay on board with Tamada for the next first corners. First of all, right-hander, use that curb on the inside, but not too much. Settle that car down. 2 90-degree left-handers in a row. Can use that rumble strip on the right-hand side for both of these. get yourself on the gas for this very short straightaway. Then again, another 90-degree left-hander. Get yourself set up here, because you've then got a 90-degree right-hander. You see Tormado working himself in the middle of the racetrack there. Some of these guys will run a slightly different line in race trim. Coming out the final corner, Tormado goes a little bit wide there. That is going to be his lap done. Just to let you know, by the way, we have got Enzo Benito back out on the racetrack. There he is. There is your provisional pole position guy. Oli Picard has now moved himself up into second position. Then it's Cronke. Then it's actually Kazuki Omishima in fourth. And then Mitchell de Jong, we remember him. He is currently in the 5th place in qualifying. And it does look as though he will actually be eligible to run in this race here today. So, looking forward to a good performance from Mitchell de Jong. Benito working himself now down into the final corner. And he is going to get himself on the road once again. Let's see what it's going to be then for Enzo Benito. Nothing there. Running a little bit wide at the final corner. But here is Gregor Hutu out on the racetrack. We've yet to see anything from Hugo Luis as it stands so far. But Hutu is running right now on the racetrack. And we'll be keeping an eye on him. We're going to go on board with the 3-time champion. Of course, with every given race, he's getting closer and closer to becoming a 4-time champion. Running it wide again. A lot of drivers running wide out that final corner. Gregor Hutu comes past the line. 1 minute 8.266. 249 even. That puts him into second place for the time being. You've got Dion Verges currently scored on the racetrack, running himself in the 16th position right now. You can tell he's working himself down in Sector 3, running in that 16th position. As we said, he has done some laps already, looking to try and go a little bit faster this time around. A mid-pack so far for Dion Verges, stay in that 16th position, working himself once again wide out of that final corner. Will he improve on his qualifying time? The answer is yes, he does, by 1/1000th of a second. Hugo Luis is on the racetrack. Let's ride on board with Hugo Luis, of course, a former champion of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, needing to get a very fast qualifying here today. Down he comes into turn number 1. Good opening sequence of corners there for Luis. We won't know how fast it is just yet, though, as he comes down into that 180-degree corner. Growing up, he can really get on the gas early here. That's one of those things you'll see. Drivers can get on the gas out of that corner. Great run down into this 90-degree right-hander to potentially make a pass. Staying on board then with Luis. A little bit scruffy in Sector 2. He's going to want to be a little bit better than that. Hutu has done 1 lap so far. He is scored on the racetrack. He has got a lap left to try and get that job done. Benito has used all of his allocations. Staying with Hugo Luis. Last couple of corners for him. Where will this lap put him as he works himself out of the final corner? The Freddie Motorsports driver, again, using as much of that runoff as possible. Comes past start finish line at 1 minute 8.511. That only puts him 8th for the time being. Let's have a look at the hometown hero, Kazuki Omishima, because he is currently scored in the 6th place in qualifying. This would be his last lap. Does look as though he's taking it very easy, however. We'll keep an eye out on him, starting in that 6th position for the time being. Looks though that Gregor Hutu will not go faster, so he has not got any more laps available to him. We have got this guy like Jake Sturgis, the guy who made it 3 wide down into turn 1 at Twin Ring Motegi, the guy who led the race, the guy who is as close as he's ever come to taking victory and being the first ever driver to win in the NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze Series and the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. He unfortunately wasn't able to get the job done. Issues for him, technical issues, meant he would finish laps down, but he is desperate to bounce back after what was one of his strongest performances in over 2 years in this series. So then, Sturgis working himself now down into the final corner. Let's see where he will be. He's currently classified in the 20th position. Comes past the start-finish line, and he will move himself up into Well, not very fast there at all, so he's got one more lap to get the job done for Jake Sturgis. To give you an update on Hugo Luis, he is still in the 8th place and 8th place only. So, we've got 2 guys scored on the racetrack right now. We're having a look at one of them, Jake Sturgis. Here is the other one, Rocco Baroni, currently classified in the 13th position on the racetrack. This is his final lap for him as he works himself out the final corner for the final time. And what can Rocco Baroni do? Well, he's currently 13th, and he will move himself up. Slower lap, he won't move himself anywhere up at all. So let's go back then to Jake Sturgis. You see, 20th place for him. That is not what he wanted, and that is pretty much everyone now done with qualifying, and we have got some big surprises. Of course, we will start off with Enzo Benito once again getting pole position here. We are just keeping an eye to see whether anyone else will get back on the racetrack, but it does look as though for the 2nd race in a row, it will be Enzo Benito for Team Redline scoring pole position. His 3-time champion teammate Gregor Hutu will line up alongside him in row number 1. Glacier Racing's Olli Pakala will be starting in the 3rd position. And then we've got Martin Kroenke in 4th, Alexei Usiakola in 5th, Kazuki Omishima in the 6th position, then Mitchell de Jong, Hugo Luis, Andre Borcha, Ilka Hapana, they round out your top 10. Again, a very bad qualifying for Hugo Luis as that championship becomes further and further away from him to potentially try and claw back. On to page 2 of the results then. Yuhu Abe in the 11th place. Of course, 2 Japanese drivers in the field here today. Robin Friskops in 12th. Rocco Baroni in 13th. Alex Simpson 14th. Antoine Hegelin in 15th. Marty Piatella 16th. Christian Laurent, Dion Verges, Isaac Price, and Jake Sturgis. We have got one guy just coming onto the racetrack now. That is Mogar Philo. You see, he hasn't yet scored a time. There are the rest of your qualifying times as they are right now. Of course, Mogar Philo has now just brought his car out onto the racetrack. There he is. So then, let's spend a little bit of time on board with Mogar Philo. We're going to go on board with the Team Radical Simulate Steel Series car as he works himself down into Sector 2. So this is a warm-up lap here for Mogar Philo. You can see, really difficult for him to get a little bit of tyre temperature up, but the checkered flag is out. So Mogar Philo will be starting from the rear of this field, 29th place, and we have seen some great drives through the field for Mogar Philo. Confirmation, checkered flag is out. It is all game over for Mogar Philo. So then we'll run through your final results one more time, and there you get confirmation. Pole position, 2nd pole position in a row for Italy's Enzo Benito, driving for Fanatec Team Redline. His Fanatec Team Redline teammate Gregor Hutu will line up in alongside him on the front row of the grid. Tatalatera Glacier Racing's Olli Pakala in 3rd, and then for Rasa, Free ID Motorsports, Martin Kroenke on the outside of row number 2. Yakola Omishima, Mitchell de Jong, Hugo Luis, Andre Borcha, Ilka Hapana. They are your top 10. We will step aside for just one moment's time. Then we're going to bring you some more highlights of qualifying when we come back. Well done, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to continuing coverage of this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We are going to go and ride on board with Enzo Benito. Now, he is your pole position guy for the second race in a row, and Enzo Benito, we unfortunately wasn't able to get his entire qualifying run in there. We do apologise for that, but Enzo Benito, you see him working himself now towards the end of the lap in that Team Redline number 17 car, and actually we have just lost Enzo Benito, so we're going to have to bring that one back, so please do just bear with us for one moment. This always does happen at the end of qualifying. Tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back again in 30 seconds time. There we are then, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are, having a look at Enzo Benito, your pole position driver. Let's ride along with him. And you can see it was an absolutely faultless lap once again for Enzo Benito in that Team Redline car. And he's just had a really good return to form after the summer break. Working himself up the hill now. This long back straightaway. Expect to see potentially some passes being made down into this coming corner, a bit like Motegi. It goes downhill and then it's off camber into the corner, so if you can get alongside, really good opportunity to make a pass. But Enzo Benito, you see, really abusing the curbs there as well, which is something that we've really seen Benito do throughout this entire season. Continuing the lap with him, working himself now down towards the end of it, and overall a really good lap there by Enzo Benito in that Team Redline car as he sought to get himself pole position in this event. Worked himself out of the final corner. There you are. That is what it takes to get pole position in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. So then, for those of you who are new to the series, we will be going racing in about 20 minutes time, just over 20 minutes time actually. In the meanwhile, I'm going to run through your championship standings as they are so far. So then, here is your top 10, and one point to note is that the entire top 10, no one actually gained or lost any places since the last round of the championship at Twin Ring Motegi. It is still Gregor Hutu classified as your championship leader now with 418 points. Hugo Louise in second place, 299 points. But you can see the brackets in figures and brackets even showing you how far back. Hugo Louise now 119 points behind Gregor Hutu as the rounds continue to whittle down. Martin Kroenke third. He's actually closed up right to the rear now of Hugo Louise, just 5 points separating the Ferrari 3ID Motorsports teammate. Olive Picard in fourth, Alexei Usiakola in fifth, then Jake Sturgis, Andre Borgia, Enzo Benito, Isaac Price and Alex Simpson. They are your top 10. Of course, for Enzo Benito, it was really helped how he was able to do such a good job at Twin Ring Motegi just a couple of weeks ago. And now I say we've got ourselves just 5 rounds of the championship. Gregor Hutu getting closer and closer to potentially becoming a 4-time champion, and he will be the first driver in history, iRacing history, to win the top level championship 4 times. Let's not forget that with Tyler Hudson's victory in the iRacing.com NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, he ended the stranglehold that Afale had for the couple of years. And what that now means is that if Hutu wins, he will be clearly ahead and be known as one of the world's best sim racers. So then, we've got ourselves about 10 minutes or so before we get ready to go racing here at Twin Ring Motegi. Don't forget, by the way, you can follow me on Twitter at Will Vincent. You can also use facebook.com/I am Will Vincent as well if you'd like to get in contact with me throughout the course of this event. Going to show you a couple more highlights then of qualifying. And here we have Ilka Hapala. He had himself a good qualifying, get himself up into the 10th position, right along with a couple of corners for him as he works himself down into the back straight away. But our Orion Racing Team driver having a good run. Once again, we very rarely talk about him in WCS competition, but he has been very consistent and does look as though that qualifying here at Okayama has gone his way as well. 10th place starting spot for Ilka Hapala. There you see then Ilka Hapala. He was 0.391 of a second behind in qualifying. This is a short track. We did expect qualifying to be incredibly close. It's actually not as close as we predicted it to be. You see that Ilka Hapala 4 tenths of a second back, running inside the top 10. Not as close to what we had at the top of the season. A number of other drivers were also running on the racetrack around the same time as Hapala. But Hapala's done himself a good job so far, getting himself where he needs to be as we get closer to race time. Dylan Verges as well. Tough day for him in the sister Orion Racing Team. He was 0.7 of a second almost behind. Yunus Lecoury in 26th place on the grid. He would have been hoping for a little bit more from this qualifying. Of course, he's got his teammate Mo Garfilo right behind him at the rear of the field as well. But Verges, especially, is a driver who is potentially looking for a little bit more in this event here today. And he is going to be rather disappointed with these 18th place qualifying for that Orion race team. But there you see Enzo Benito. He is pole position, 1 minute 8.230 for him. Overall, an absolutely great qualifying for Enzo Benito. Alex Simpson as well. We've talked quite a lot about Alex Simpson so far this season in the Apex Racing UK car. He had himself a good qualifying, getting himself 14th place. Potentially, he said he was looking to try and get himself into the top 10 here. But 14th place, mid-pack, isn't too bad for that Apex Racing driver. We'll ride along with him for just one moment. And we won't ride along with Alex Simpson by the look of it. Jake Sturgis, though, this is one driver who really has struggled. 20th place in the INX Racing car. And I think it'll take an absolute miracle of miracles, of course, if he is going to get himself to the front of the field today. Led for the good first part of the race at Twin Motegi just a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, though, 20th place starting position in the INX Racing car on a track which can be difficult to overtake is not what Jake Sturgis would have wanted. And he was over 7 tenths of a second behind Enzo Benito when all was said and done. Let's have a look at his lap and see if we can figure out anywhere that he might have gone wrong. You see that wiggle immediately, actually, in turn 1. Would have cost him about a tenth of a second. Does look as though that car just wasn't good getting itself onto the power in and out of those slow speed corners. This would be a really good telltale. He actually kicks up a bit of dust. Having to take a wide line there. He did get onto the power when he needed to, but it does look as though that car just didn't want to turn on him, didn't have the aerodynamic grip he needed, and that put him on the back foot all the way through that section. Slow speed cornering just doesn't seem to be good for that car today. Does seem to be that at the better, the rear end of the lap, he does get a little bit better. But that was Jake Sturgis' lap there. And unfortunately, 20th place on the grid is absolutely not what he would have wanted. Of course, Hugo Luiz as well. He had himself a very tough and difficult day. Let's see if we can get a look at Hugo Luiz. We're going to ride on board with him in that 3ID Motorsports car. And you can see 8th place qualifying for him. He just has really struggled this season with qualifying, pit stops, and for a former champion of this series, it does seem to be that he has been under a lot of pressure, not only from Gregor Hutu, but from his teammate Martin Kroenke this year, and also, of course, from the Glacier Racing boys. We've taken a number of points away from him that before this year you would have thought, you know, straight out fight between Luiz and Hutu. It hasn't been, and I think that might have gotten under the skin of the Brazilian. You can see very slow there, actually. as he works himself into Sector 3 on the racetrack. Hugo Luis really struggling, blipping the throttle down into the final corner as well. Not the sort of lap that Hugo Luis would have wanted, and that is why he is a total of 3/10 of a second behind your overall race leader. Hugo Luis desperately struggling in qualifying here in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. For those of you who are just joining us, then we are going to get ready for our race coverage in just 1 moment's time. But if you are just joining us, here is a look then, finally, one more time at what will be your top 10. And it is going to be Enzo Benito getting himself pole position for that Team Redline car. It's going to be Gregor Hutu lining up alongside him in row number 1. And then Oli Pagala, Martin Cronke, Alexei Usiakola, Kazuki Omishima, Mitchell de Jong, Hugo Luis, Andre Bortra, and Ilka Hapada. They are your top 10. Going to step aside one more time. We're going to get ready for race time here on RaceSpotTV. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the front. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's going to be the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it.
here we go.
You love it. The 0-1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump.
6 wins in a row it has been for Gregor Hutu, winning 6 races of what was, at the start of the season, the most competitive iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series that we'd ever seen. But when we started off at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps with that epic battle between the 3-time champion and the 1-time champion Hugo Louise, to then seeing Louise take victory at his home circuit, Glacier Racing winning their first ever race, and then following it up with a 1-2 finish at Road America. Since then, it has been all about Gregor Hutu, and today, if he makes it 7 wins in a row, that championship is pretty much all said and done. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Okayama International Circuit for the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Will Vincent here for RaceSpotTV. You can follow me at Will Vincent on Twitter, also facebook.com/I am Will Vincent, and you can also get in contact with us as well using the hashtag iRacingWCS. To have a look through the championship standings coming into today's event, it was Gregor Hutu with a 119-point lead over Hugo Louise. Martin Kroenke in third, closing up to the rear of his teammate. Then you got the 2 Glacier Racing drivers of Oli Picala and Alexei Yusiakola in 4th and 5th. Jake Sturgis in 6th, Andre Borcher, Enzo Benito, Isaac Price and Alex Simpson. Top 10 for them. However, that could all change here today. That top 10 coming out of the summer break was the same top 10 in exactly the same order coming into this race. But one thing you can really tell, those gaps have got a lot narrower. And ladies and gentlemen, we are about 4 minutes away from kicking off the race here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live as well. Don't forget, for more information about either the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series or the NASCAR Peak Anti-Free Series powered by iRacing.com, don't forget to head over to wcs.iracing.com right now. Let's have a look then at some of the things going on the racetrack. You've got drivers all out right now. Going to check in with Marty Piatella in qualifying. He didn't have the best of days, but bringing his car right now down onto towards pit road. And you can see a couple of drivers doing that obligatory starting, standing start practice. And you'll see them all lining up down pit road. Don't forget, last time out, it was actually Enzo Benito who had a horrible second phase of his start that led to the 3-wide situation with Martin Kroenke and Jake Sturgis. Jake Sturgis eventually coming up with that one with the overall lead. But this guy today, Gregor Hutu, will be starting in the 2nd place. And he's got one of our onboard cameras today in that number 1 Team Redline car. Again, looking to make it 7 wins in a row. One thing he will have to do, though, is get past his teammate Enzo Benito, not actually taking the track right now, so just keeping things calm. One driver really looking for a good race is this guy, Hugo Louise, sponsored by IGP manager Freddie Motorsports car. He is starting down in the 8th place here today, not the kind of qualifying he would have wanted. We're getting closer and closer then to the lights going out for this race. And with it, we're going to very quickly run through your starting grid for this round number 11 of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Starting then on row number 1 will be Enzo Benito and Gregor Hutu, a Team Redline lockout on the front row of the grid. Glacier Racing's Oli Picala will be lining up today in the 3rd position. Martin Kroenke will line up alongside him in row number 2. Row number 3, Glacier Racing's Alexei Yusiakola, and then Running Racing's Kazuki Omishima. Row number 4, we saw him earlier in the season in qualifying, but he wasn't able to race Mitchell de Jong. Now he has the chance to go for glory from 7th place on the racetrack here today. Lining up alongside him in row 4, Hugo Louise for Freddie Motorsports. Again, horrible qualifying for the Brazilian. Andre Borcher and Ilka Herpano line up on row number 5 of the grid with Yuhu Abe and Robin Friskops in row number 6. Then you've got Rocco Baroni and Alex Simpson in row number 7. Antoine Heglin, Marty Piatella in row number 8. Row number 9, Christian Laurent, Dion Verges. Row number 10, Isaac Price and Jake Sturgios. Row number 11, Jeremy Bootsloop, Yorni Tamala, Paulo Mulia and Simon Cattell in row number 12. Paul Lilbrink, Eunice Decurian, Lee Thompson, Fabio De Carmo, Mo Garfilo and Ruka Ranataulo round out your 30-car field here at Okayama International Racing Circuit. So then, we are getting ready to go racing here today. You can see the cars are gridding for this, the 11th round of the championship. Will it be 7 wins in a row for Gregor Hutu? Can Enzo Benito steal one away from his teammate? What can that second row of the grid do? Oli Picard and Martin Kroenke. Keep an eye out on Mitchell de Jong. 83 laps, getting set to go racing here at Okayama. The 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series starts right now. Good start, but here you see Hutu immediately goes to the race lead. Down into turn number 1. Martin Kroenke moves himself up into second position. You can see Kroenke having a tete-a-tete and Omishima having a great battle as well with Enzo Benito. It does look as though that, again, Benito's had an absolutely terrible start to this race. Kazuki Omishima up into the 4th place, looking to try and get the job done early over Enzo Benito as they work themselves down into this corner. And you see Omishima having to look to the outside. And will he get the job done there? The answer is going to be no, he won't. He'll actually go wide, and this is actually going to allow cars potentially to pass him. No, he doesn't. But Omishima tried to get the job done there. Wasn't quite close enough. It is Hutu, though, who leads the way as they get close to completing lap number 1. Then it's going to be Martin Kroenke. 3rd place is going to be Enzo Benito. But look at Kroenke all over the rear of Gregor Hutu. And we know how strong these 3ID cars are at the start of the race. We know that this is potentially the best opportunity for Kroenke to get the race lead early. You can see he's having a look around the outside. Will he get that job done into turn number 1? The answer is going to be no, but he'll stay side by side, getting pushed wide there, Martin Kroenke. But Kroenke will go to the race lead. So Martin Kroenke now leads this race. Gregor Hutu led the conclusion of lap number 1, but as we said, we know the strength in numbers for Team Redline is in the second part of a fuel run. Martin Kroenke is leading right now, and he's eking out an advantage. You can see as well, we just lost it on our shot, but Omishima was under attack there from, I believe that was Alexei Yusiakana. No, it wasn't. It was Oli Picard actually in what is the battle for the 4th place on the racetrack. There you see Kazuki Omishima. There you can see just in the background is Oli Picard. Picard really putting the pressure on Omishima in the battle for 4th place on the racetrack. So then, to run through your top 10 as things have settled down just a little bit, it is Martin Kroenke who leads. All these drivers picking up a load of dust. Gregor Hutu is in the 2nd place, but you can see guys are very close together. Got to pass. This is Jake Sturgios, I believe, trying to make a move on some drivers. He's already got himself up into the 18th position on the racetrack. But just to let you know, all cars are still classified as running in this event. Jeremy Bootsloop started this race on pit road. He's classified in the 30th position so far, but all guys have made it through those first couple of laps on the racetrack. There you see Martin Kroenke. There you see the gap between him and Gregor Hutu, now up to 1.6 seconds on the racetrack. So Kroenke is building up a very early lead, and just to have a look to see how Kroenke is doing, last time by a 1 minute 10.158 for him. Fastest lap of the race. He went purple that last time by, actually 1.3 seconds faster than that guy Gregor Hutu, and there is confirmation of that. So you can tell potentially that Kroenke is on a 2-stop strategy here. Potentially also, the red line drivers are splitting their strategies up between them as all of these guys work themselves past the start-finish line once again. This mid-pack is incredibly close right now. And to check in with Hugo Deweese, he has been able to get himself up 2 positions since the drop of the green flag. We'll ride on board of him just very quickly, as I say, in at that 3ID Motorsports car. But up 2 positions. He needs to be getting up more spots early, and there is a chance, of course, he might have just fueled that car to the absolute brim to try and hope he can do the overcut, which has been so workful in this series so far this year. So things are starting to settle down then out front. Behind, you've got good, interesting battles going on between Martin Piatella and Dion Verges. Gap between those drivers is about 6 tenths of a second right now on the racetrack. You've got Verges and Lorente running pretty closely as well, 20th and 21st positions on the racetrack. And it does look as though that things have started to settle down. Andre Borcha, though, has on a charge right now, trying to close up to the rear of UA as they work themselves through the second to last corner, now into the final corner. Working on board with Andre Borcha, kicking up a little bit of dust there. Expect to see drivers do that all race long, up to 180 miles an hour as they come down into turn number 1. Borcha is close to the rear of UA, but nothing really that he can do yet in that battle for the 10th position on the racetrack. Hugo Luis is still stuck right on the rear of Oli Picana. We'll go back on board with Luis. You can see that gap is a lot closer compared to what it was earlier. The issue is that Picana has got run himself on Kazuki Mishima, and it does look as though like Hugo Luis is getting a little bit frustrated there in that 6th position. Of course, if he's actually on a 2-stop strategy, then he really needs to get past some of these guys a lot faster than what he's doing right now, is working ourselves on lap number 5 of 83. But Hugo Luis still running in that 6th position right now, and already the gap between himself and his teammate is up to almost 6 seconds on the racetrack. So just like what we saw at Tuna Motegi a couple of weeks ago, Hugo Luis's bad starting position means that he's already on the back foot with less than 10% of this race scored complete. To check back in on your race leader, there you see Kroenke, and there you see Gregor Hutu. Kroenke is now, get this, over 3 seconds ahead of Gregor Hutu. Get confirmation there on your screen. Up to 3.2 seconds is the gap in that battle for the race lead right now. Kroenke is just absolutely driving away with it. And there is Hutu. There you can see the gap between him and Benito. Benito is about 1.2 seconds ahead of Kazuki Omishima. And then Omishima, he rounds out your top 5. But he has got Oli Picana all over the rear of him. Got Simon Cattell out of the race, ladies and gentlemen, just to let you know, our first retiree of the day. Unfortunately, that was outside of our screens. We'll try and get confirmation what happened to him a little bit later on. To check in, by the way, on Mitchell de Jong, we talked about him. Of course, this is the 2nd race he's attempted to qualify for in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. He had an absolutely phenomenal qualifying at Watkins Glen, putting up 3rd place on what would have been the grid. However, wasn't eligible to run the race, is eligible to run today in that number 51 car, coming down into turn number 1, all over the rear of Alexei Usiakola. Great to see Mitchell de Jong running in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Your first piece of TV time, de Jong. Hope you enjoy it. Fabio De Carmo having a bit of a battle right now with Lee Thompson in the battle for the 26th position, right down at the rear of the field on the racetrack, running on board with Lee Thompson. There you can see the gap to Jeremy Bouteloup behind him. It's about 2 tenths of a second on the racetrack. Those 3 cars, Fabio De Carmo is there in the mix as well. We've got a car off track. I believe that was actually Fabio De Carmo. Let's actually get a replay, see what happened to him. So then, this is coming down into that long 180, and he just gets tagged there by Jeremy Bouteloup. Fabio De Carmo getting tagged at the very rear of the field, which puts him now down into the 28th position on the racetrack. Just to let you know as well, Ricky Redatalo is classified as out of the race for the time being as well. But Martin Kroenke now has got a 4.4 second advantage over Gregor Hutu. Last time by for Martin Kroenke, it was a 109.384. Just about a 10th of a second off of his fastest lap of the race. And let's not forget as well for Martin Kroenke, he didn't even qualify on the front row of the grid because of the fact that it's a team red line lockout, but a great start for the second race in a row for Martin Kroenke has put him into the race lead. He is charging away. There is a chance if he carries on pushing to this length, he could potentially open up a very interesting strategy race here in the 11th round of the championship. Let's check back in then on this battle for P4, 5, 6 on the racetrack. Gonna ride along board with Oli Pakala, and you can see that he has got Kazuki Omishima ahead of him. Gap between Omishima and Pakala right now is about 6 tenths of a second on the racetrack. We'll turn our camera around. There you can see Hugo Louise running in that 6th position on the racetrack. So Pakala is having to defend and attack at the same time. It does look as though that he is starting to lose sight of Kazuki Omishima ahead of him, however, which means that it might make life a little bit easier for Hugo Louise in the latter stages of this first run, because at the earliest part of it, it did look as though that Pakala did have the slipstream there from Kazuki Omishima, which was why he was able to defend those early attacks from Hugo Louise in this battle for P5, 6, 7 on the racetrack. You've got Alexei Isiakola kind of still there in that mix as well. Things are starting to settle down, however, on the racetrack. You've got Christian Loren and Yunus Zakurian. They are battling right now for the very rear of the top 20. In fact, they're running 21st and 22nd on the racetrack. Christian Loren, there you can see the gap between himself and Yunus Zakurian, the GT Ross driver of Lorente, running himself in the 21st position right now. Yunus Zakurian, a bad qualifying for him and a bit of a wiggle actually, under braking, running himself in 22nd place on the racetrack. Thought about Mo Garfilo before. He was a driver who had to start from the rear of the field. Didn't actually get a qualifying lap in. He's up 4 places since the drop of the green flag here today. Now running himself in the 25th position on the racetrack. Trying to close up actually to the rear of Polio Mulia right now in the battle for 24th spot. Last time by, it was a 111.2 for Mo Garfilo, a 111.6 for Polio Mulia. So that one we do expect to see change in the next couple of laps or so. Mo Garfilo starting again, as we said, from the rear of the field here today. Mid-pack, let's have a look then at Jake Sturgios. We talked about Sturgios' horrible qualifying to this. Couldn't get himself into the top 20 in qualifying. And there you can see he's up 3 spots into drop of the green flag here today. But he was really under pressure. And from a great run, a chance where his first chance to really take victory in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series in over 2 years. Today, he really struggles at the Okayama International Racing Circuit. Only up 3 spots into drop the green flag. We know just how fast Onyx Racing are historically in a straight line, but it does look as though he hasn't really got the chance to put much pressure on Yoni Tomato ahead of him, who runs in the 16th position on the racetrack. Ilka Hapana is playing a bit of a battle right now with his teammate in what is essentially a battle for 8th position on the racetrack. There you can see the gap between the two drivers. Mitchell de Jong in the 8th position. Ilka Hapana running himself in the 9th spot right now. And the gap between those two drivers, well, it's about 8 tenths of a second. It fluctuates between about 8 tenths and 1 second on the racetrack. Last time by, de Jong was just a little bit faster than Ilka Hapana. And you can see that for de Jong as well. He is down 1 spot since the drop of this green flag, making his first start in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Ilka Hapana, he's up 1 spot since the drop of the green flag. That last time by, it was a 1 minute 10.170. No, it wasn't. 1 minute 10.082. His fastest lap of the race. Ilka Hapana setting his fastest lap as he tries to close up to the rear of his teammate. Jake Sturgios is now closing. And he's very close, actually. We're going to go back on board of him as he is trying to close down Yoni Tamada in the battle for the 16th position on the racetrack. Sturgios getting it tight, and this is the issue actually had in qualifying as well. Couldn't get that corner nailed down, which has cost him about 2 tenths of a second in one corner alone, and doesn't look as though it's going to be anywhere near close enough to make that pass down into that 90-degree right-hander at the conclusion of that back straightaway. He remains himself in the 17th position on the racetrack. One guy who is flying, however, is this guy, Martin Kroenke. Last time by 1 minute 9.358 for him. So he settled down into a rhythm now. His lap times consistently in the 109s. It was 1 minute 9.3, 1 minute 9.3, 109.2, 109.3. So his last 5 laps have all been within about a tenth of a second of the other, as that gap is now up to 7.4 seconds on the racetrack between himself and Gregor Hutu. Now, we're not completely sure what the strategies are going to be for this race, because as we saw at Motegi, some guys went for 2 stoppers, some guys went for 1 stoppers. We do think that we are going to see a 2-stop race here today, and that is going to mean that we're likely to see the first round of pit stops anywhere from about lap 20 to 25 onwards. Second stops will likely see somewhere in the range of lap 50 to 60. If guys want a 1-stop strategy, however, they will likely come into pit road around lap 50 mark in the event. Battle continues then between Kazuki Yamashima, Oli Picard and Hugo Ruiz in the battle for P4, 5, 6 on the racetrack. Having a look from the rear of Oli Picard, there you can see the gap between himself and Hugo Ruiz. Last time by, it was 1 minute 10.0 for Picard, 109.9 last time, but that time by Oli Picard down 2 spots into drop off the green flag here today, qualified in 3rd, running himself in the 5th position right now on the racetrack. And he has caught back up to the rear of Kazuki Yamashima. However, it doesn't look as though he's been able to do anything about it at all. And the guy who's losing out the most really is right now Hugo Ruiz, because he has not had the opportunity to close up and make a pass on Oli Picard because of the fact that Picard is getting that toe down this back straightaway. Coming into that picture as well, you can just see at the rear of your screen is Alexei Yusiakoda, of course, former winner this season, winning the 3rd round of the championship at Suzuka. His teammate Oli Picard winning the 4th round of the championship at Road America. The last 2 drivers to actually win. And get this, it has now been 8 races in a row that a Finnish driver has won in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. The only guy actually who's not a Finn to win is Hugo Ruiz in that red, black and white 3ID Motorsports car, as we now continue on lap number 15 of 83 here. To have a look down the field as well, this battle continues with Jake Sturgios and Yorni Tamala going to go on board once again with Jake Sturgios. So once again, that 180-degree corner is the one that really catches out Sturgios, not able to make it work for him. Gaps really have started to settle down. To run through your full top 10, it is Martin Kroenke who leads the way now with 15 laps of this race scored complete. Then it is Gregor Hutu running himself in the 2nd position. There you see him coming into shot there. Enzo Benito is there in the 3rd place. 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, all separated by no more than half a second each. Then it is Mitra de Jong just coming there on your screen. Then Ilka Habana. Then Yuhu Abe rounds out your top 10 as it is right now. 2 retirees out of the race so far. We've had ourselves Riku Alatalo and also Simon Cattell, both classified as out of the race. Sturgios is now a lot closer to the rear of Tamana, and this is the reason why. We've got ourselves a new, very close pack here. And now you see Jake Sturgios trying to dance down to the inside. Not quite close enough for him. We're right back on board. But you can see very close racing. It's now a 4-car train. And actually, does look as though that Tamada is going to try and look down to the outside. It's going to be side-by-side racing here as he's working himself over, I believe that was Isaac, Rocco Baroni, Alex Simpson. But Yorni Tamada moving himself up 1 position into the 15th spot on the racetrack now. And it was indeed Isaac Price who was able to get past. Let's get ourselves a replay of that pass then with Yorni Tamale. It's actually a very good move around the outside. Here you see it set up there. You see a defensive line being taken by Isaac Price as they came down into the corner. Yorni Tamale in that red Ferrari 3ID Motorsports car just decided, thank you very much, I'll drive around the outside of you, gets the inside line into the next corner, manages to move himself up one position on the racetrack. So now it is Jake Sturgis right behind his teammate Isaac Price in this battle, and actually I believe that Sturgis was just allowed past there by Isaac Price. Yeah, Isaac Price just allowing Jake Sturgis up a position. So it does look as though all of a sudden that Jake Sturgis is now classified in the top 15 as we continue on lap number 17 here. And Jake Sturgis now running in the 16th position. There you get confirmation overall. Isaac Price even moved down into the 17th place on the racetrack. Let's check in then one more time with Olli Pakala as he continues his battle over Kazuki Omishima in this battle for P4 on the racetrack. There you see Olli Pakala as he works himself down into the 180-degree corner once again. Very Mickey Mouse track they call this, of course. It hosted 2 Pacific Grand Prix in 1994 and 1995. Michael Schumacher won both of those events. Pakala not able close enough to get himself done over Omishima, but closes right up under braking. And it does seem to be that Omishima does struggle in these slow speed corners, and it now definitely is a 4-car train between Omishima, Olli Pakala, and then Hugo Louise and Alexei Yusiakola right there in that mix as well. And for Hugo Louise, he's thinking that he's got a chance here to potentially leapfrog some of these drivers perhaps, because he's just been stuck behind these guys now since the drop of the green flag. And again, it shows just how important qualifying can be in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, and that gap as well to the race lead. We talked earlier about how it was 5 seconds, now 16 seconds on the racetrack, with Hugo Louise to his teammate Martin Kroenke, who leads this event right now. So these guys continue their battle, and there you see Omishima at the front of that train once again. Then it is second in line Olli Pakala, third in line is Hugo Louise. No one able to make any moves there, however. Gregor Hutu, by the way, is now 10 seconds behind Martin Kroenke in that battle for the race lead. However, Hutu has been able to pull out a 2.5 second gap over Enzo Benito in that battle for the 2nd place on the racetrack. So the 2 Team Redline cars are right now running themselves P2 and P3 in this event. For those of you who are new to the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series for this season, Gregor Hutu has won 6 races in a row, and he's looking to make it 7 in a row as he gets closer to locking out of this championship. We've done a map here on RaceSpotTV, and that potentially could be in as little as 3 races time. Gregor Hutu is once again crowned champion. Enzo Benito is running himself in that 3rd place. There you see Gregor Hutu. There you see in the background is Enzo Benito. Kind of running in no man's land right now because he's got a 2.5 second gap to Hutu. Then he's got a 2.5 second advantage over this scrap right now. P4, 5, 6, 7 on the racetrack. And what's interesting to note is that Mitchell de Jong is actually catching up to the rear of this train as well, as is Hilke Apara. Now that last time by, it was about 1 minute 9.7 for Kazuki Omishima, a 1 minute 10.0 for Mitchell de Jong. But de Jong is only actually about 2 seconds off of this train. And you can see he's only actually 1.1 seconds off of Alexei Yusiakola, the car ahead of him. Does get himself a little bit loose there through the second to last corners. He works himself back down onto the front straightaway. Yep, kicking up some dust once again in that number 51 car. But Mitchell de Jong isn't out of the picture here, potentially for a top 10 even in this event. But Hugo Louise is now very, very close to the rear of Olli Pakala. This is about as close as he has been. Let's see, will he try and make a move? very close now for Hugo Luis, having to stay in line for the time being. That gets him a little bit offline through the hill section of the racetrack, and you see he's had to drop back once again, but very close, going side by side there with Oli Picala in that battle for the 5th position on the racetrack, and potentially desperation now starting to kick in for Hugo Luis as he remains in that 6th place, which is where he's been since the conclusion of lap number 1 in this event. A little bit further down the field, you've got battle between Isaac Price and Martin Piatella. Literally just about half a second separating these guys on the racetrack right now. Isaac Price in the number 36 car for INX Racing. Martin Piatella in the number 8 car for 3ID Motorsport. Having a look from the rear of Isaac Price as he works himself back down in sector 3 of the racetrack. The V Racing INX Racing car running himself 17th. Not the kind of day that Isaac Price would have wanted to have had. He's had some great runs so far this season, but Isaac Price does seem to be one of these drivers that's struggling with this difficult Japanese asphalt here. And you can see another huge gaggle of cars there. And this starts all the way from Yorni Tamada in the 15th position, and it goes all the way back. There you see about 5 or 6 cars very close in line, and Tamada is actually catching up to the rear right now of Rocco Baroni, who runs in the 14th position on the racetrack. There you can see Baroni just in the distance as Tamada works himself down onto that back straightaway once again. Jake Sturgis is close now to the rear of Yorni Tamada in this battle for the 15th position on the racetrack. Jake Sturgis again with that bad qualifying really has been trying to get himself moving through the field to no avail. He was lucky to get past Isaac Price. He just allowed him to go past. Something's happened to Hugo Luis. Something has happened to Hugo Luis. Hugo Luis has fallen down the field. He's actually coming to pit road. So Hugo Luis on lap number 23 deciding to pit early, potentially to leapfrog these guys, and there he sees onto the jacks. And you've also got his teammate as well. He's just come down onto pit road because Hutu now leads the way. Here's Hugo Luis back out onto the racetrack and getting confirmation of where Martin Cronke is as well. Cronke is now scored in the 10th place, and Hugo Luis a 9.2 second stop for him. It was a 7.3 second stop for Martin Cronke. So either Cronke is going lighter in this second stint, or it is going to be another case of bad pit stop for Hugo Luis, which has haunted him 4 races in a row a little bit earlier. And what it does mean is that this guy, Gregor Hutu, is once again leading the race. Now, don't forget, before pit stop started, it was about an 11-second advantage that Cronke had. As just behind there, you can see Enzo Benito just going past some lap traffic. Nothing to worry about on that one. But we talked earlier about how it was an 11-second gap that Cronke had over Gregor Hutu. Gregor Hutu's last lap time, a 1 minute 9.598. Last lap time for Martin Cronke was a 1 minute 9.720. So Cronke isn't losing that much on a lap-by-lap basis right now. So it's going to take a lot of work potentially for this guy, Gregor Hutu, to close it down. We've got to see whether he's on a 1-stop or a 2-stop strategy at this stage of the race. Riding on board then with Gregor Hutu in that number 1 team Redline car. And let's see whether he's going to make that journey down onto pit road. We are past 1/4 distance, getting close to 1/3 distance in this event right now. Just shy of 1/3 distance, and you see Gregor Hutu will stay out for another lap. Enzo Benito going to stay out for another lap as well. We've only had a couple of takers so far on pit road as Benito runs very wide there out of the final corner. But what this could mean for Hugo Luis, as behind you just see, again, second time in a row we've done that, it was Alexei Usiakola just going past the driver there. This could work out well for Hugo Luis, because I'm just having a look at his lap times, and last time by, he did a 1 minute 13.053, so he's not back up to speed yet. We'll get confirmation when he actually comes past start-finish line. That'll be in just 1 moment's time. But if he can get times within the 1 minute 9, mid 1 minute 9, he can actually try and leapfrog Omishima and Picala and he comes past the start-finish line now. Let's get a look, see what that lap time was. Last time by a 1 minute 9.938. That's not what he needs. He needs to be at least 2 tenths of a second faster than that. Last time by it was a 1 minute 10.1 for Kazuki Yamashima, a 1 minute 9.9 for Oli Picala, a 1 minute 9.8 for Alexei Yusiakola. Hugo Rees needs to be running a couple of tenths faster than these guys right now. We've seen that the tyre fall off hasn't been that bad, and we don't seem to be getting too much of a time differential between runs. However, for Luis, if he's going to get himself ahead of that pack, he does need to push every lap for the time being. Does need to be a qualifying lap for him, as we have got 26 laps of this event now scored complete. There is your race leader, Gregor Hutu, as he works himself down up the hill once again, and it looks as though that he is going to carry on the racetrack. Going to step aside for just one moment, then we'll be back with continuing coverage of this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We will be right back.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to continuing coverage of this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from Okayama International Circuit. Will Vincent here from RaceSpotTV. Don't forget, you can follow me, facebook.com/I am Will Vincent. Alternatively, on Twitter, at Will Vincent as well. Nothing's really changed since time that we've been away. Gregor Hutu continues to lead in this event. Gap between himself and Enzo Benito is now up to 3.5 seconds on the racetrack. Don't forget, you can ask us some questions on YouTube if you're watching the feed there. We've had a couple of questions about why these drivers aren't getting disqualified for running on the dirt. Now, they are okay to run at least up to half of their car on that dirt before they will get themselves what's classified as a 1X, an off-track penalty. And get too many of those, you don't get disqualifications in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. I had a chat with the iRacing stewards early on in the season about that. However, all of these drivers have what's called an I rating and a safety rating. You have too many off tracks, get involved in too many crashes. What happens? You lose your World Championship license, and you have to then basically drive safely to get it back over the upcoming event, running in lower class Formula A. We've also been asked about the setups as well. Each of these teams, some of the drivers in particular, they do each run their own setups. And we've talked to people from the big camps, Glacier Racing, from Team Redline, and from 3ID Motorsports. And they run a very interesting thing. Sometimes they'll run what's called a team setup. Sometimes they adapt their setups. And Gregor Hutu has got a very different driving style to that guy, Enzo Benito, at the start of the season. So it's very difficult for Benito to really get all that setup help he needed when he joined the Team Redline camp. Does seem to be that ever since we've had that summer break, Benito's gotten a lot closer So potentially, Benito might have found something in what Hutu was doing, which now works better for him, that he's been able to adapt to his own driving style. And one of the interesting points coming out of the summer break is just how fast Benito has been. So then, gaps are kind of growing right now, but Jeremy Bootslip is closing up to the rear of Paolo Mulia in what is the battle for the 23rd position on the racetrack. Jeremy Bootslip started this race on pit road. I remember a race last season where Bootslip came from like 26th on the grid to finish 6th. And don't forget, we go back to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in just 2 weeks' time. It is one of Bootslip's favourite tracks, and of course, it'll be live here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live as well. And Bootslip will be hoping for better qualifying and another opportunity of getting himself up into the top 5 in this event as he continues his battle. Paolo Mulia, and here's Jake Sturgis on pit road. 8.8 second stop there for Jake Sturgis, bringing himself back onto the racetrack, potentially trying to do something a bit like Hugo Louise and do the undercut on some of these drivers to get positions later on. You see coming back out onto the racetrack, just losing a position there to Paul Ilbrink when he does so. So one stop made for Jake Sturgis, the first of our iNext Racing guys onto pit road. Hugo Louise has made a pit stop. Kazuki Yamashima, by the way, away from our screens, he has made a pit stop as well. It was a 9.4 second stop for him. Martin Kronke, we already know, has made a stop. Dion Verges is the only other driver to make a pit stop in this event so far. So we are getting a really interesting split strategy here today. Some drivers trying to do it on a 2-stop strategy. Other drivers are looking to do that normal size 1-stop. And we said earlier, the window for a 1-stop, well, that will open about lap 40 to 45 in this event. Christian Laurent there just allowing Hugo Louise to go past as Ilka Hapada comes out of pit road as well. Ilka Hapada just made a pit stop time, 9.1 seconds for him. So then, out front, it is still Gregor Hutu who leads the way. Now a 4-second advantage over Enzo Benito. Oli Picard, now he's got into clean air. He's down into 1 minute 9. Last time by for Oli Picard, a 1 minute 9.5 for him. It was a 1 minute 9.4 for Alexei Usiakola. Hugo Louise is struggling right now in the 1 minute 10.2s. But we were talking about how he's potentially going to need to do the undercut on those Glacier Racing drivers. Actually, it's the complete opposite. Picard, and there you see the time there also for Alexei Usiakola. Both are really putting away right now from Hugo Louise, as we've got Mitchell de Jong now on pit road as well. Believe he has just come back out onto the racetrack. There he is, back out onto the racetrack for him. 8.9 second stop there for the American driving for Orion Racing. So what it seems to be is that we have Orion Racing, 3ID Motorsports are splitting their strategy. Orion Racing, again, kind of splitting their strategy up a little bit. And then you've got iNext Racing splitting their strategy up. But it does seem to be there was a lot of confusion over whether a 1 or a 2-stop strategy was the better way to go. And for 3ID Motorsports, of course, you've got Martin Kronke, who was on that 2-stop strategy, as well as Hugo Louise. But this guy, Marty Piatella, for example, in that 3ID Motorsports camp, he is running on a 1-stop strategy. And then you've also got Mogol Field. Actually, Gregor Hutu is onto pit road. So Gregor Hutu is onto pit road. Here he is. And we've also got the 2 Glacier Racing drivers on pit road as well. There you see Gregor Hutu, a 9.1 second stop for him. So he is back out and away. He'll be classified in the 6th place for the time being. Alexei Usiakola coming out of pit road. And Yakola comes out behind his teammate, Oli Picard. They came in the one way. They came out of pit road in exactly the same spot. An 8.8 second stop there for Alexei Usiakola. An 8.4 second stop there for Oli Picard. What it does mean for the time being, it is Enzo Benito who leads the way in that number 17 Team Redline car. Kronke is actually back out ahead of Gregor Hutu. So we'll get a confirmation on that time in just one moment, because it could be critical, as here comes Benito now onto pit road. So pit road speed, you see, it is a very slow 37 miles an hour here for Enzo Benito, as he will be classified as leading one lap of this event. But here comes Martin Kroenke past already. Enzo Benito into his pit box, going to get himself 4 fresh tyres. He will top off on race fuel as well. Now, I'm intrigued to see whether he's on a 1 or a 2 stop strategy. Pit time for Benito, 8.8 seconds, out and away there, as we've also got Martin Piatella by the looks of it on pit road as well. Get confirmation of that. Pit road is a very busy place. There you see Robin Friscops on pit road. Pit time for him, about, well, he's still in his jacks, an 8.5 second stop for him. And that is Andre Borcha, an 8.4 second stop for him as he now comes out of pit road. So Martin Kroenke leads again. Alex Simpson technically is classified in the second position for the time being. Hasn't yet made a pit stop in that number 35 Apex Racing UK car. Guys in the top 10 who haven't made a pit stop is, you've got Alex Simpson running himself in the second place on the racetrack. Then you've got yourself Rocco Baroni running himself in 4th. Here he is. And you've also got Yoni Tamada, Isaac Price and Antoine Hegelin, who have not yet made a pit stop. Keeping an eye on Alex Simpson, and here Simpson comes onto pit road. Will Baroni follow him into pit road? Nope, Baroni's going to stay out for another lap, but Alex Simpson now brings his car onto pit road. So then, Alex Simpson, you see all the cars streaming past him as he gets ready to make his pit stop. What's it going to be for Alex Simpson? He's now into his box. And for Alex Simpson, looking as though that he is potentially on the chance of doing this as a one-stopper race. Out and away, 8.9 seconds for him. Antoine Hegelin also making his pit stop. There you see him. And that is a pit stop time for him of 9.1 seconds as he is back out and away. Lee Thompson also, Lee Thompson slowed there. I think that he's just allowing a couple of lapped cars to go past. Get a replay of that because that was rather weird for Lee Thompson, but just slowing down to an absolute grinding halt. It came up on our timing monitors there. We'll get confirmation of this. He literally just slowed down to a grinding halt to allow all these cars to go past. He was off the racing line, but he literally just stopped there to allow 6 cars to go past him. So whether or not Lee Thompson's got damage or he's just not very happy with his race car, we will have to let you know. So Rocco Baroni still hasn't pitted in this event. He's running himself in the 3rd place on the racetrack. He is the only guy left in the top 10 who hasn't yet pitted, because here Yoni Tamada and Isaac Price are classified on pit road. Pit time there of 8.4 seconds for Yoni Tamada. Isaac Price is back out and away as well. 9.0 second time there for Isaac Price. These guys are going to come out pretty much nose to tail as they come back out onto the racetrack. So then, Isaac Price down into the 19th position. Rocco Baroni still hasn't pitted. Now, he could be the one guy to potentially do this as a one-stop race. What he has doing right now, though, is holding up Enzo Benito just a little bit. The 2 Italians then. One in the Movano X team, powered by Thrustmaster. The other one in the Fnatic team Redline. So, battle of the sponsors here, battle of countrymen. But Rocco Baroni, his last lap was a 1 minute 10.074. Now Gregor Hutu is down in the 1 minute 9.8. Enzo Benito's last lap time was a 1 minute 9.8 also. But potentially Benito could be getting held up a little bit here by his fellow countrymen, especially if he's on a one-stopper as well. It's going to be difficult for Benito to really get past, because it's not going to be too much of a straight line advantage because of the fact that Baroni is lighter on fuel than most of these other guys as well. There you see Picana, there you see Yakola, and out of all this, by the way, that guy, Hugo Louise, down in 9th place. He's down 1 spot from where he started this event. That championship we talked about sliding further away, not only is it sliding away, it's now potentially meaning that coming out of this event, Hugo Louise will not be in 2nd place in the standings, because this guy Martin Kroenke is leading, and he's now got a 16-second gap over Gregor Huttu. So then, if Martin Kroenke wants to get himself a race victory here today, it's clear that he is on a two-stop strategy. It's clear that Gregor Huttu is likely now not going to make another pit stop in this event, or if he does, it's going to be a splash and dash. So Martin Kroenke now, as we get closer to halfway distance, needs to basically get himself about a 25-26 second cushion. He's got 17 seconds of that, and last time by, it was a 1 minute 9.4 for Martin Kroenke. His fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 9.068. I'll just let you know, that is the fastest lap of the race by 0.2 of a second. Oliver Picardo has the second fastest lap of the race, then Alexei Yusiakola, then Gregor Huttu. So Kroenke is flying for all intents and purposes. He just needs to make sure that every single lap is a qualifying lap to be able to stay ahead of this guy, Gregor Huttu, potentially end the 6th win streak, and potentially also make it the 5th winner this season as well, which would be a record. Someone just making a little bit of comment there, Max Gallardo. There are only 2 reasons to get tyres and gas. There is a third one, of course, to repair damage, get yourself a new front wing or new rear wing. Also, you could get yourself a speeding penalty, so that is one thing, or a black flag from race control. Or, of course, you might be retiring your car. So I'm making that 6 reasons in total why these guys can come on to pit road. Of course, the main 2 are to get themselves tyres and gas as well in this event. As the guys continue to circulate, some people that hasn't come on to pit road for any reason. One of them is this guy, young Jonas Nakurian in the Radicals Steel Series car, working himself right now in the 13th place on the racetrack. He hasn't yet pitted, and it looks so that all of the Radicals drivers are on a one-stop strategy, because here's my Garfilo. He is yet to make a pit stop in this event. He runs in the 17th place right now. Paul Ilbrink, he's yet to make a stop in this race right now. He runs in the 22nd position. And we've also got Jeremy Bouteloup, who hasn't yet made a pit stop either. He runs in the 14th spot on the racetrack, about 1 second back from his teammate, Jonas Nakurian. So then, keeping our eye out then on your battle at the race lead, Martin Kroenke has himself now an 18.3 second gap over Gregor Huttu. And having a look actually at the pit times and distances, all of these guys, by the looks of it, are going to have to make at least one more stop. Potentially, Martin Kroenke is going to try and make this a 3-stop race. It will be the first time, I think, in 3 years that we've actually seen an iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series race with 3 stops right on board with Martin Kroenke in that 3ID Motorsports car. So now that gap's about 18.5 seconds on the racetrack, but Martin Kroenke getting closer to halfway distance here. So if he is on a 3-stopper, we expect him back on pit road, we would say, in the next 3 to 4 laps time. So then, we have got ourselves to run through your top 10. It is Kroenke leading the way with 40 laps of this event, scored complete. Gregor Huttu in 2nd position. Enzo Benito in 3rd. Oliver Picardo in 4th. Alexei Yusiakola in 5th. Mitchell de Jong is scored in... Kazuki Omashima in 6th. Mitchell de Jong in 7th. Hugo Luis in 8th. Ilka Hapana in 9th. And then, running out your top 10 is Andre Borcher. Your biggest movers of the race so far. Well, Kroenke is up 3 spots into drop of the green flag. He's your biggest mover inside the top 10. Benito is down 2 positions overall. Moving ourselves on to page number 2. Nakurian up 13 positions, but of course he hasn't yet pitted. You've also got Bouteloup up 7 spots as well. Tormano's up 3 positions. Ilbrink up a couple of spots. Big loser Antoine Hegelin, he's down 8 spots into drop of the green flag. He is our biggest loser in the field. Christian Laurenti also down 7 spots on the racetrack as well since the drop of the green flag. So the guys who haven't pitted then, Jonas Nakurian, Paul Ilbrink and Fabio De Carmo, They are the 3 guys and Jeremy Bootley, 4 guys who haven't yet made a pit stop. As we continue along, there is your race leader. Gaps really have settled down. There is a great battle going on here, however. Look at the gaggle of cars that starts with Yorni Tamala, as we'll have a look on board with him. There you can see, right behind him is Isaac Price, then Jake Sturgis, Paul Ilbrink. As Enzo Benito, by the look of it, could be coming back onto pit road, or is it an issue for Enzo Benito? We're getting word that has been an issue for Enzo Benito. He is falling down the field, and there you see he's now down 11th place. Technical issues for Enzo Benito, and the guy who has had such a good run really falling down the orders. Here comes Kroenke back onto pit road for his second stop. So here comes Kroenke then to a halt, 4 fresh tyres for him. He is going to top up once again with race fuel, giving up the race lead to Gregor Hutu. Be interesting to see what the gap is once he comes back out onto the racetrack once again. 7.5 seconds, back up to speed. He comes down into 3rd place on the racetrack with a 2.4 second gap to Oli Pacala ahead of him. Martin Kroenke is back out and away. And getting past the lap traffic of Lee Thompson very quickly there. That's going to be important for him. But Martin Kroenke now running himself in 3rd place. He is actually only about 7.1 seconds back from Gregor Hutu. Oli Pacala is 2.5 seconds ahead of him. Now, if Kroenke can just actually stay in clean air, this could really work to his advantage. Jonas Nakurian making his pit stop, his first of the day there in that Radicals Steel Series car. Now, his pit time, 11.5. That might just be good enough to get him to the end of this race. So back onto the racetrack comes Jonas Nakurian up to 100 miles an hour, then back down to 85 as he comes from himself through turn number 1. Nakurian making his first service of the day in that Radical Steel Series car. We've still got Paul Ilbrink yet to make a stop, and Fabio Nakamo, but this guy is once again classified as your race leader. It is Gregor Hutu in the Team Redline car, and he right now has a 4.4 second advantage over Oli Pacala in that battle for the race lead. So half this race is scored complete. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step aside for just one moment and we'll be right back. We're continuing coverage of this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, as Jeremy Bootley comes down onto pit road, and we will be right back in just one moment.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93, 39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race for the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed and for number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you
Brad
love it.
Davies, here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around. The 5 gets around. Big jump for first place.
Past the halfway point of this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from the Okayama International Racing Circuit. Will Vincent still here on RaceSpotTV as Gregor Hutu continues to lead the way after Martin Kroenke has made his second stop of the day. Hugo Louise is scored well down the field, and what this all means right now is that potentially it could be Martin Kroenke coming out of this race ahead of Hugo Louise in the championship. There is your race leader, Gregor Hutu, relied on board with him in that number 1 Team Redline car. People who's led laps in this race so far, well, Martin Kroenke has led 28 tours around this racetrack. Gregor Hutu has led 17. Endo Benito has led 1 lap, but he is now classified as out of the race. He's had some mechanical issues and he is done for the time being. There is your race leader, Gregor Hutu. There you can see at the back of his shot, Ollie Picala there in the 2nd position. And then you see 3rd place, Martin Kroenke, as he's got a little bit of lap traffic to get around in the next couple of corners here. He runs in that 3rd position and he has actually closed the gap down to Gregor Hutu as well. It was 7.1 seconds. A little bit earlier on, after Kroenke had made his pit stop, is now down to 6.2 seconds, but he's got to get past Mogar Philo now, and that is exactly what he's going to do as they work themselves down the back straightaway. Martin Kroenke gets past the lap traffic, and that is critically important for him. The last thing you want is to have to deal with traffic around this section of the racetrack. He has got Jonas Decurian, who's going to have to deal with as well in the next couple of corners, but there is the gap. And you see Kroenke has lost about 3/10 of a second on this 1 lap alone, getting himself past lap traffic. Let's have a look then down in the pack, and this is about what we were talking about earlier, Isaac Price and Jake Sturgis. Now let's not forget earlier on, we did actually have Isaac Price just move aside to let his teammate Jake Sturgis go past. Of course, Sturgis is running in the top 10 in the championship. However, it does seem to be in this time around, Isaac Price doesn't want to give that position up as easily, as he currently runs in the 16th position on the racetrack. And right behind him there you see is Sturgis running in 17th position. Dion Verge is at the rear of this train, which has got 4 cars in it right now. These guys have scored over 44 seconds now behind your race leader. Everyone has now made a pit stop except for this guy, Fabio Di Carmo. He's the last guy scored on the lead lap in that number 26 car. Looking as though he's just having a very slow day, very difficult day for him. But he is running in 26th position, scored 1 lap down. Hasn't yet made a pit stop in this event in that 4 Brothers Motorsport car. So then let's check in on Ollie Picala. There is the gap between himself and Martin Kroenke. It is 2.4 seconds on the racetrack. Now let's not forget, last pit stop, you had Gregor Hutu, Ollie Picala, Alexi Yutiakola all coming to pit road at exactly the same time. As you saw actually Martin Kroenke there going very wide out the final corner. That is about as wide as we have seen him go. And there's the gap between Martin Kroenke and Alexi Yutiakola. It is 2.6 seconds on the racetrack right now as we're working ourselves on lap number 50 of 83. There is the gap between Yakola to Kazuki Omishima. A good run by Omishima actually today. Haven't talked about him much, but Omishima having his best run since, of course, that chance he had to become a rookie winner in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. An amazing battle, of course, he had with Gregor Hutu in the closing laps. before he hit the wall of champions. It did seem to be that the race after that, Onishima struggled a little bit, but he's back in form here today in that number 43 car, and the Japanese driver on home soil having a good showing here in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series as he goes for Rookie of the Year honours. So that gap between Martin Kroenke and Gregor Hütter we were talking about, it has stabled now at about 6.2 seconds on the racetrack. There you see confirmation of that. Martin Kroenke last time by a 1 minute 9.449 for him. Gregor Hütter did a 1 minute 9.586. So lap on lap, Kroenke is clearly faster. However, he has got to close this gap down as much as possible. Remember, we think that Kroenke is going to make one more stop in this event compared to Gregor Hütter, just getting himself past a little bit of lap traffic there. That was Paul Ilbrink in the Radical Simulate car, and Martin Kroenke comes back down, and that gap now is about 6.2 seconds on the racetrack actually. So he's gained a little bit of time on this lap. Battles have really kind of settled down on the racetrack. This is still the best one that we have. Yorni Tamala to Isaac Price. There you see Yorni Tamala at the front of your screen. Isaac Price right behind him. Gap between Yorni Tamala and Isaac Price is half a second on the racetrack. Isaac Price to Jake Sturgis, well, again, about half a second on the racetrack. Then Sturgis back to Dion Verges is, get that, about 7/10 of a second on the racetrack. Thankfully, Dion Verges has got a pretty comfortable gap to the car behind him, which right now is Antoine Hegelin running himself in the 19th position on the racetrack. As we ride on board with Jake Sturgis, the hero 2 weeks ago, until it all went wrong for him, mechanical issues for him, the same kind of issues that Enzo Benito has had here today. Sturgis has struggled a lot today, and there is a chance this could hurt his standing in the championship as well. He has got a couple of drop weeks that he can fall back on. Sturgis, of course, one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for here, one of the most consistent drivers normally in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, but he has historically struggled at this racetrack. So then, Hütter continues to lead the way. Last time by for Gregor Hütter was a 109.490. This is the kind of times he was setting before he came onto pit road last time by. So we expect Hütter onto pit road in the next 2 to 3 laps time. And there you see the gap. There is Olli Picala running in that second place. Last time by for him, a 1 minute 9.3 for him. So Olli Picala really also getting closer to his fastest lap of the race. We talked about the fastest laps of the race earlier on in this broadcast, but the fastest lap of the race, well, that still goes to Martin Kroenke, a 109.086, and then it's Olli Picala, the second fastest lap of the race, then Alexei Usiakola, then Gregor Hütter, then Enzo Benito. But as far as things go, it is that guy, Martin Kroenke, who has been the fastest guy on the racetrack since this race has started. Don't forget, you can let us know your thoughts on our YouTube page or on Twitter. Use the hashtag iRacingWCS. Got a couple of shout outs to him. Give out one to Ricardo Costa. He thinks that Kroenke is likely to win the race if nothing bad happens to him. Team Redline are confirming that Gregor Hütter is on a 2-stopper. And they do believe, of course, that Martin Kroenke is on a 3-stopper. And Max Gallardo, you want to win? Hire a thing. So shout out to him as well. And of course, oh, Gregor Hütter's actually just come onto pit road. No, he's not. He's not on pit road. I take that back. Our timing and scoring had a momentary blip. Gregor Hütter stays out on the racetrack. There is confirmation. He is still leading the way, but we do expect to see him in the next lap or so, right on board of him. So then, when we get Gregor Hütter coming onto pit road, what we'll do is we'll actually try and time how long it is from pit entrance to pit exit to kind of get an understanding of just how long you need to have to make a pit stop here. Gregor Hütter, he stays out for another lap. Yes, he will. So he's going to work it now onto lap number 55 here at the Okayama International Racing Circuit. And behind him, Oli Picala, he stays out for another lap as well in that second place. And as I said, don't forget that Picala, Hutu, and Yakola all came onto pit road at the same time. There's Yakola. Yakola's really kind of fallen off the pace in this second stint. Now, he did actually have a longer pit stop time, 8.8 seconds. You compare that to Oli Picala's time, which was 8.4 seconds. That equates to about 2 to 3 laps worth of fuel in this event. As we're getting word that Alex Simpson might now be classified as out of the race. Not quite sure what's happened to him, whether or not that is just a timing thing. Actually, we are getting word that potentially Alex Simpson is now just disconnected from the race. So we're just having a look through our timing and scoring to see if we can get any confirmation on that one. And yeah, it does look as though that Alex Simpson hasn't had a crash. So it does look as though that he might just be classified as out of the race. But there is Gregor Hutu, lap number 55, coming down into the books for him. Not going to come on pit road once again. Oli Picala coming down into the same corner. He will stay out one more time as well. Now, let's not forget as well, this final stop for these two drivers is going to be slightly shorter than their first stop. It does look as though on that first stop, they did take enough fuel to get themselves a little bit longer than they did in that first run. We have got to pay attention to how long that pit stop is. And of course, whether Cronkite will have enough time to get themselves into this event. Got to give a shout out to Elite 76 as well. Apparently he was asking Ricky to tell me to give him a shout out. I'll just give him a shout out myself. Hi, how you doing, Elite 76? For Martin Cronkite, the gap between himself and the race leader, Gregor Hutu, is now down to 5.8 seconds. So he's been able to take another couple of attempts out these last couple of laps. It's going to be mighty close though between himself and Gregor Hutu when all is said and done. You see that gap is about stable at about 5.8 seconds. This is a part of the race though when they're going to be on fumes. And here is Gregor Hutu. We did think that he was about to come onto pit road that time by. He is going to stay out for another lap, 56 laps in the books. Here is Alexei Yakola as well, running himself in that 4th place on the racetrack. So then Jake Sturgis is still stuck behind his teammate. There we see Jake Sturgis right on board of him, still stuck behind his teammate, Isaac Price. He's now up to 14th place as everyone else has made their pit stops. But Isaac Price is still ahead of him. And that's just surprising because Price was actually slower on the pit stop itself, but had a better in-lap and a better out-lap than Sturgis. Put himself back ahead of the teammate, who was actually about 2 seconds behind before they came onto pit road. And this battle has been very close, as we say. Jake Sturgis running in that position. And Hugo Louise, by the way, we are getting word that Hugo Louise has made his 2nd stop of the day. So we'll keep an eye on him because Hugo Louise is now scored down in the 12th place on the racetrack. There is confirmation for him. Just keeping an eye out on our timing and scoring just in case Gregor Hutu or anyone else does come on pit road. But Hugo Louise has made his 2nd pit stop of the day. It was a 9.5 second stop for him. So he is now good to go toward the end of the race. We think right along board of him for just one moment. It's been a tough race though for Hugo Louise. You can see the gap to the race lead, 50 seconds as it stands on the racetrack. That, even if you get a pit stop, is going to be over 20 seconds. Hugo Louise will be back once all is said and done in this race. And of course, the guy he's always trying to beat is that number 1 driver of Gregor Hutu, who is just storming away out front right now. Last time by for him though, a 1 minute 9.482, a 1 minute 9.283 there for Oli Picala, and a 109.7 for Martin Cronkite. So Cronkite having a slow lap last time by, and that brought the gap back up to 6 seconds between Gregor Hutu and Martin Cronkite. And there's the gap between Gregor Hutu and Oli Picala right now. It is about 3.1 seconds on the racetrack. Of course, it fluctuates every single moment. And will Hutu come onto pit road this time by? Nope, he will stay out once again for yet another lap. Got to give a shout out to Clive Lawrence there. Hi, how you doing this afternoon? So he is working himself right now in this race. He's having a good time looking at. But Gregor Hutu now into lap number 59 of 83 here in the 11th round of the iRacing.com. World Championship Grand Prix Series. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, the next round of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.com, will take place on the 12th of August. They're going to a road course. It'll be Watkins Glen International. It'll be live on iRacing Live, PSR TV, and MRN, the Motor Racing Network. That is August 12th, and that will be 9 p.m. Eastern Time. The guys from the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series, powered by iRacing.com, going to the road course of Watkins Glen International. So there is, one more time, your race leader, Gregor Huttu, in that Team Redline car. People's asking, didn't Gregor Huttu pit earlier? Yes, he did pit earlier. We believe that all of these guys are on a two-stop strategy, except for Martin Kroenke, who was on a three-stopper. There you see is Gregor Huttu right now. There you see Ollie Piccardo running in the second place. There you see Martin Kroenke running in the third position. And then you see Alexei Usiakola in fourth. Mitchell de Jong just coming now down onto the start-finish straight. He rounds out your top five as it runs right now. Second round of pit stops is taking place. So see Jake Sturgis, Martin Piatella going side by side as they work themselves through this hairpin. Now this has been the section of track that Sturgis has struggled at, but it does look as though this time by he was able to get ahead of Martin Piatella. Will Piatella try and do the cutback? Yes, he is. You can see the draft there for Piatella. Round the outside he will go, but Jake Sturgis will now just be able to stay ahead. Side by side racing going to end as Sturgis running a little bit wide. That is going to allow Piatella to have a sneaky little look. Not able to do so. Did Piatella just lose his car there? No, he didn't, but he got himself very loose on the racetrack. Jake Sturgis moving himself up one position on the racetrack. So then, let's have a look. It's Ollie Piccardo is onto pit road, and Gregor Huttu are both on to pit road to make their final stop. And you see Alexei Usiakola in the background as well. This is critical. Let's have a look at the pit time. First of all, Gregor Huttu is into his box, looking as though it's going to be a moderate stop there for Gregor Huttu. 7.7 seconds, he is out and away. There we see 7.9 seconds for Ollie Piccardo. And for Alexei Usiakola, 7.5 seconds as he is out and away. We have one of the Orion Racing cars as well, Mitchell de Jong on pit road. 7.7 stop for him. He is back out and away on the racetrack. So Martin Kroenke once again is scored as your race leader. The gap between himself and Gregor Huttu, it's 21 seconds on the racetrack. If Martin Kroenke wants to push, now is the time to do so, because that is the only chance that he will have to try and take victory here from Gregor Huttu. I do think, though, it is going to be mighty close between Kroenke and Huttu. Kroenke has got to find a way of making this last stop about 5.5 seconds shorter than Gregor Huttu. Of course, he will go a little bit longer. Just trying to figure out when he came onto pit road. It was half race distance. We expect him to come onto pit road again, therefore, I think in about 4 laps time. And you say, this is your race leader right now with a 21 second gap over Gregor Huttu. But Kroenke does have to pit again before the end of this race. So for Kroenke, he needs to be doing fast lap times. That last time, a 1 minute 9.203. He is charging right now. Just 2 tenths of a second off of his fastest lap of the race. Right on board of him as he comes down into this Mickey Mouse section of the racetrack. Nice bit of camber, but really you're just so slow around here. You see down to, again, about 85, 90 miles an hour. That's actually one of his teammates who's just allowing him to go past there. Yorni Tamala, that was, who was just allowing him to go past by the look of it. Yes, it was. You see there is Tamala on the racetrack there. Now going down a lap to Martin Kroenke. Kroenke leads this race, and he will complete his 60-second tour of this racetrack in the race lead. What we do need to know, however, is what the lap time will be for Gregor Huttu the next time he comes past start-finish time. Lap for Martin Kroenke, a 1 minute 9.4. So a little bit slower than his previous lap. He does need to push. Every tenth of a second is going to be critical for him now on the racetrack. He needs to make sure that every single apex is absolutely perfect. But to keep an eye out, and we say that last lap time for Gregor Huttu, well, it was a 1 minute 9.490. So, Hutu only lost 1/10 of a second that last time by. Hutu is still in a shot of winning this race. Running on board then with Gregor Hutu in that number 1 Team Redline car, powered by Fanatec and Okayama. Up to 181 miles an hour there before the braking zone, and he comes down. And you say, he is pushing incredibly hard. He now actually has a 3-second gap over Oli Picana, who stays in that 3rd position. Yuhu Abia hasn't made his 2nd pit stop. Alexei Yusiakola is classified as having 3 stops in this race, but he's actually still running in the 5th position. But Martin Kroenke, we need to keep our eye on him, of course. That last lap time for him, well, it was 109.1. He is back into the groove. He needs more laps like this. And of course, Marcus Johansson saying on our YouTube feed that last stop will be shorter. Yes, that last stop will be shorter. Let's not forget, he's now only going to need to get fuel to go less than 20 laps. His last pit stop was 7.5 seconds. He can be brave. He can try and not take tyres in this last pit stop. Make it a pure splash and dash. He can get that pit stop down to about 5 seconds. He locks up those tyres there. They're going to be horrible for the last part of that stint. Also, tyre, if that falls off for him as well, chances are he could be coming under attack from Gregor Hutu. Here he comes onto pit road. Martin Kroenke onto pit road. This is the moment we'll be waiting for. This could potentially be the overall race win. Where is Gregor Hutu is the question that everyone is asking as another car comes out of pit road as well. There you see Martin Kroenke into his pit box. 4 fresh tyres for him. He's going to try and get himself now down to the end of the race. Where is Gregor Hutu? There is Gregor Hutu. Hutu is going to come back out in the overall race lead. There you see Kroenke back out onto the racetrack. But Hutu has got it done. And also, Oli Picana is going to get past Kroenke as well. So here is Hutu. He leads. Then you see Oli Picana. There you see Martin Kroenke. It didn't work for the 3ID Motorsports driver. So Martin Kroenke then back out onto the racetrack. UA, by the way, just coming out of pit road. Final pit stop for him, 7.1 seconds on the jacks. You got another car on pit road as well. That is Isaac Price. There you see him making his final pit stop of the day. Likely to be another 7-second-ish stop for him. A long stop there for Price. 7.2 seconds. He is out and away. Everyone has made at least one stop in this race. Isaac Price is back out and away. So then, your race leader once again is Gregor Hutu. Oli Picana runs in the 2nd place, but you have a look at this. There is Picana, and you can just see, to go to our next camera shot, there is Martin Kroenke right behind in that battle for the 2nd place on the racetrack. These 3 guys are separated by just 4 seconds on the racetrack. So then, Kroenke trying to close up to the rear of Oli Picana. It's about a 7/10 of a second gap between these two right now. Kroenke will have to be aggressive in these last couple of laps. You can see that gap is coming down to Gregor Hutu out front as we just cut away from that shot. But for Martin Kroenke, he has got to hope that he can get himself now up into this 2nd place at least, and then potentially try and close down Gregor Hutu in the battle for the race lead. There's the gap between Oli Picana, Martin Kroenke. Less than 20 laps to go in round number 11 of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. We're going to step aside and we will be right back after these short messages. Less than 20 laps to go in round number 11 of the 2014 iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Gregor Hutu leads away from Oli Bacana and Martin Kroenke. Kroenke's alternate strategy didn't quite work out for him. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, if you are a new member to iRacing, head over to iRacing.com right now for half price off all new memberships. And don't forget, for more information about either the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series or the NASCAR Peak Anti-Free Series powered by iRacing.com, head over to wcs.iRacing.com. And also follow me, Will Vincent, on Twitter at Will Vincent with 1L, or facebook.com/I am Will Vincent as well. And as you can see, we are now down 15 laps to go in this event, as that battle between Bacana and Kroenke doesn't look as though that Kroenke does have anything in the latter stages of this event. That gap was down to 0.7 of a second. It was previously a 1 minute 9.4 for both of Bacana and Kroenke. In fact, Gregor Hutu also doing a 1 minute 9.4, but actually the fastest guy on the racetrack that last time by. So Hutu is potentially going to make it 7 wins in a row. There's the gap then between P2 and P3. Here's the gap between P1 and P2. Gregor Hutu, 2.5 second gap now over Oli Bacana. He has led so far 35 laps of this event. He has now led more laps than anyone else in this event here today. He is up 1 point, of course. Hutu, since the drop of the green flag here today, was able to get that race lead away from Enzo Benito on that first corner. Although he did get passed by Martin Kroenke at the conclusion of lap number 1, he has been able to lead through this varying pit stop battle. It's been a great pit stop battle, actually. Very strategic race. Although there's not been much overtaking, been really keeping us on our toes here. And don't forget, in 2 weeks' time, we head over once again to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, where the corner names roll off the tongue. You've got La Source, you've got the Air Rouge Radillon Complex, you've got Lacombe, Stavelot, Pouon, the Fungy Chicane, Blanchimont, the bus stop, everything. And that will be 2 weeks' time here on RaceSpotTV. Got a couple of battles to close off in the latter stages of this race. Going to have a look at one of them. This is Andre Borcha in one of the Ferrari Motorsports cars, catching his own teammate Hugo Louise. Hugo Louise had struggled here today, and if the race was to end now, Hugo Louise will fall down into 3rd place in the championship. First time he's fallen outside the top 2 of the championship for over 2 years. So not the day Hugo Louise would have wanted to have happened to him. And 8th place is where he qualified, 8th place is where he's running right now. Andre Borcha catching up to the rear of him with the laps winding down. Borcha last time by did a 1 minute 9.870, about the same time as what Hugo Louise was able to do on the racetrack. Got another battle still going on towards the rear of the field. This one is between Martin Piatella and Dion Vergers as these guys continue along on the racetrack. There's the gap. About 7 tenths of a second, battling for P15, 16 on the racetrack even. Martin Piatella in the Ferrari Motorsports car, Dion Vergers in the Orion Racing car. And that gap is about 0.7 of a second on the racetrack. These two continue to duke it out for P16 on the racetrack. Give you a couple of updates actually, whilst we've got a moment to breathe. Most people have made at least 2 pit stops in this race. We talked earlier about how you had the radical quad of Mo Garfido, Paul Legelbrink, Eunice de Courier and Jeremy Boostum. They're the only guys still running in this race who have only made 1 pit stop. As far as the guys making 3 pit stops are concerned, we have Alexi Uciacola is classified as 3 pit stops, but we do think he's only made 2. Christian Loren, Oli Bacana, Martin Kroenke, all making 3 pit stops in this race. Of course, the big one was for Martin Kroenke. We ride along board with him right now. And he made his 3rd pit stop, came up behind Oli Bacana. That gap is now about 1 second again on the racetrack between Bacana and Martin Kroenke. Coming down into the slowest section of the racetrack once again, down to 45 miles an hour. Then you tiptoe around this section of the racetrack. No higher than 85 miles an hour through either of these corners. Short little straightaway here to get yourself a bit of momentum, a little bit of oversteer there for Kroenke as he comes out of that corner. And we are now going to be down to 11 laps to go in this event. So then, to run through your top 10 as it stands right now, it is still leading the way, Gregor Hutu. Now with a 2.5 second gap over Olli Pekala. Martin Kroenke runs in the 4th position. And then you have Alexei Yusiakala running himself in the 4th position. Really has dropped off the rear of that gap he had to Pekala at the end of the first end. Mitchell de Jong running himself in the 5th place on the racetrack. Great to see the pro driver doing so well here today. Then it's Kazuki Omishima. He runs in the 6th position on the racetrack. Ilka Hapada is in 7th. There is Hugo Louise. There's Andre Borcher right behind him. And then you've got Yuhu Abe rounding out your top 10. There is Yuhu Abe on your screen right now. Haven't talked much about Yuhu Abe in this race, but good to see both of the Ronin racing drivers scored in the top 10. Best performance they have had since that Canadian Grand Prix. We'll talk about how good that was for Kazuki Omishima. Yuhu Abe has had an up and down season himself, but great to see the Ronin racing driver again scored inside the top 10. So that battle continues for P2 on the racetrack between Olli Pekala and Martin Kroenke, as we are now down to 10 laps to go in this event. Pekala last time by was able to do himself a 1 minute 9.413. Double attempts off his fastest lap of the race. Martin Kroenke, well, he's been able to do a 1 minute 9.374. That gap is static still at about 1 second on the racetrack. It does seem to be that once Kroenke gets into that dirty air, he just has nothing for Olli Pekala. Of course, that push that you get on the cars, especially on these slow sections of the racetrack, we haven't seen much overtaking here at Okayama, and this is one of the reasons, because these slow speed corners really generates an aero push on these cars, and Kroenke now is really struggling close up to the rear of Olli Pekala in that battle for P2 on the racetrack. Having a look down the field, Jeremy Bootsloop, Christian Laurent, they have a battle going on in the latter stages of this event. Having a look from the rear of Christian Laurent, about 0.7 of a second there between those two drivers. Jeremy Bootsloop's actually just fallen off a little bit. Bootsloop just gone off the racetrack. Just having a look, Bootsloop is just fallen off of our timing screen, so we'll get confirmation of that in just a moment. But Bootsloop, we don't think he's had a crash, so a technical issue potentially there for Jeremy Bootsloop. And having a look at Mo Garfido as well, just allowing some cars to go past him. Lap traffic there in that Team Radicals car, and he's running in the 20th position. I was about to say it wasn't the race that Jeremy Bootsloop would have wanted to have happened to him. This definitely isn't the race that Jeremy Bootsloop would have wanted to have happen to him, as he now falls outside the top 20, although we do go back to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in just 2 weeks' time here on RaceSpotTV. Who knows, I might even have someone to commentate with as we go back to the world's most famous road course for Grand Prix racing. That will be 2 weeks' time. Of course, coverage starts at 1:30 p.m. GMT here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Andre Borcher still all over the rear of his teammate Hugo Louise in that battle for P8 on the racetrack. Does look as though Borcher's not really putting too much pressure on his teammate, but I'm sure if Hugo Louise does make a mistake, Borcher will slot it down the inside with now 8 laps to go in this event. But that guy out front, Gregor Hutu, just getting himself past a little bit of lap traffic there. Just trying to see who that was. It's one of the 3ID Motorsports cars. We believe it is Marty Piatella. Indeed it is. Who just being lapped there. You see riding on board now with Piatella in that 3D Motorsports car, being lapped by his countryman, of course, arch rival at the same time, Gregor Hutu. Hutu now has led 42 laps of this event. He has got 7 more tours of this circuit to go as he comes down into the second to last corner once again, down to the final corner once again. We're going to spend a lap on board with the 3-time champion, Gregor Hutu. So then, that is a lap on board with Gregor Hutu, three-time champion, looking to make it 7 wins in a trot here today in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. There's the gap between himself and Ollie Picala. Want to give a shout out to Jack, also known as Epic Osh Hacks. So a shout out to him. And also to Kevin Riddle, a star Mazda racer here today. Also to Frank Levesque IV. We saw him yesterday in competition in the IndyCar road course race at Mid-Ohio. Actually the highest ever strength of field race we've ever seen for an IndyCar. Of course, these guys ran the IndyCar back in the 2010 iRacing.com road series, as we called it then. It was the road series of road racing, the World Championship of Road Racing. That was the one back in 2010. Gregor Hutu winning 15 out of 16 races that year. Would be great to see him back in the IndyCar once this season is done. But congratulations to everyone who set that soft record in the IndyCar race at Mid-Ohio yesterday. Over 5,000 strength of field. Now down to just 5 laps to go here at the Okayama International Racing Course. Dion Verges trying still to close up to the rear on Marty Piatella in the battle for the 16th place on the racetrack. Having a look from the rear of Piatella, there you can see just in the distance is Dion Verges as these guys continue to battle for P16. So these guys continue it along on the racetrack. Passing has been very difficult here today. It does look as though that Verges isn't quite close enough to line up a pass. Go back to Martin Kroenke. We're right on board with him. He has still got Ollie Picala in his sights. This is the gap though to the race lead. It is down still to about 3 seconds on the racetrack. It's been that ever since Martin Kroenke has come out of pit road after making his 3rd stop of the day. A 3-stop strategy for Kroenke. Arguably, he wouldn't be in this position had he not made that choice. Just not enough for him, however, to get himself higher up on the rostrum. He will take solace, however, that coming out of this event, he will be classified in 2nd place in the championship standings, unless there's any major changes in the last 3.5 laps of this event. However, he will be ahead now of his teammate. That is Hugo Louise. Hugo Louise falling down into 3rd place in the championship. Unofficially, of course, and we will try and bring you the updated championship standings before we go off air here today on RaceSpotTV. So then, now down to just 3 laps to go to run through your biggest movers and shakers in this race so far. It has been 1 position for Hutu, 1 position for Picala, 1 position for Kroenke, 1 position for Yakoda, 1 position for De Jong. Harpala is up 3 positions, and then as you run down outside the top 10, good races today for a couple of guys. Prix up 6 positions, Sturgis up 6 positions, Philo up 9 positions overall in this event. Biggest loser, well that's Enzo Benito. He started in the pole position. Technical issues for him, putting him out of the race. Also, we had a couple of people scored well down the foot. Alex Simpson down a lot of positions as well. 11 places he has lost since the lights went out to start this event. And now just 2 and a bit laps to go for this guy, Gregor Hutu. You can see actually all 3 of them are still kind of in one trailer with each other. There's Hutu, there's Picala, and then there is Kroenke in that 3rd position, riding on board one more time with Martin Kroenke. There's the gap to the race lead. Kroenke going very slowly there. I'm not actually quite sure what happened, but he's just lost himself of 2 seconds in 1 moment. We'll try and see if we can get a replay of that. See if there's anything. Maybe he cut a curb or something. But let's have a look. See if there's anything that we can really catch there from Martin Kroenke. Now, this is where he slowed down. Yeah, he just ran over that curb too much. Got himself a slow down penalty. You see, he had to slow down. And that cost him quite a bit of time now. We'll see if we can get one more replay of that one up for you. you see, grinding to a halt there for Martin Kroenke. So that's completely ruined his chances of getting himself up into second place in this event. A light minute error there for Kroenke, just pushing a little bit too hard with just a couple of laps to go in this event. Still, however, classified in the third place on the racetrack. Here, however, is your race leader, Gregor Huttu. Just a lap and a little bit left to go for him now, as he works himself 4 corners to go, and then he will see the white flag. There will be one more lap of racing in this event. So coming out the final corner, ladies and gentlemen, this time by, the white flag is in hand. One more lap to go for this guy, Gregor Huttu. Nicely through sector 1 there for Gregor Huttu. Short first sector here, working himself now through the sweeping S section, fastest section of the racetrack. Up the hill he comes one more time. He has led 49 laps of this 83 lap event here today. That is the gap to Ollie Picard in second. You can see Picard just at the rear of your screen there. He is in second place. Kroenke still in third. Then there is the gap from Kroenke down to Yakola. Yakola all the way at the rear of the hill now. Cameraman just about able to get to it. And then the gap between himself and Mitchell de Jong, well, it's about 10 seconds on the racetrack. There you see Mitchell de Jong just coming over the crest of the hill now. However, for Gregor Huttu, he's just now got a couple of corners to go. We thought once again someone else might have had a chance. That guy was Martin Kroenke. He led at the end of lap number 1, but when all is said and done, Gregor Huttu makes it 7 wins in a row in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Ollie Picard comes home in the second position. There is Martin Kroenke coming home in the third position. And then there is Alexei Yusiakola. He will come home in the 4th place in this event. And then to round out your top 5, ladies and gentlemen, give a cheer to this guy. Mitchell de Jong, our highest placed Plo driver this season. That number 51 car comes home in the 5th position. Kazuki Omishima coming past the line in 6th. Ilka Hapard in 7th. Then Hugo Louise all the way down in 8th place overall. Andre Borcher behind him in 9th. And then to round out your top 10 is Yuhu A for the running racing team, the hometown hero, coming home in 10th. And you have 2 guys from running racing team in the home Grand Prix classified in the top 10. Robin Friscops comes home in the 11th position. Rocco Baroni right behind him there in 12th. And then waiting now for Isaac Price. There he is to come home in the 13th position. Jake Sturgios is going to be the last guy scored on the lead lap. He comes home 14th. A hugely disappointing day for him today. But for this guy, Gregor Huttu, claiming victory once again in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. What a drive by him. And there are the guys he beated. Ollie Picard, Martin Kroenke, they round out your podium. But Gregor Huttu, victorious once again here in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Cars all bring themselves back down onto pit road to conclude this event. Let's then run through your final race results. And it is Gregor Huttu who makes it 7 wins in a row as he claims victory in this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Ollie Picard comes home in the 2nd place. Martin Kroenke in 3rd. Alexei Yusiakola 4th. Mitchell de Jong in the 5th position. Kazuki Omishima in 6th, Ilka Hapard in 7th, Hugo Louise in 8th, Andre Borcher in 9th, and then Yuhu Abe rounds out your top 10. Robin Friscops comes home in the 11th position. A bad day today overall for IronX Racing. Rocco Baroni in the 12th position, Isaac Price 13th, and Jake Sturgios, Antoine Heglin, Marty Piatella, Dion Verges, Christian Lorente, Yorni Tamada, and Mogar Filo round out your top 20. And as the rest of the field comes up on your screen, we'll step aside for just one moment. Then we'll be back with final thoughts and a couple of post-race interviews from this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Stick with us. We will be right back.
Prix series powered by iRacing.com has officially begun. It's all in control of Brad Davies in that 11 machine. Green flag flies. He's damn near banged up though. Now the 93 is going to push the 4 of Brian Day all the way up the wall. 4 wide down the super stretch point in the turn. And now the 93-39, the 3 machine goes around. Big trouble in the back. It's the race to the win up front.
Look behind him. They're 3 and 4 wide, trying to make a push to the front as the field gains speed in turn number 1. Kenny Humphrey, if he can rip it back to the start-finish line, will win here at Daytona.
7 laps to go.
Oh,
As you love it,
here we go.
You love it. The 1 gets around, the 5 gets around. Big choke.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos and danger, until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. Sure, they've got the most accurate tracks and realistic cars out there, but that's just the start. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight, and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all are kept in the pits. Not to mention that with over 45,000 active members already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in on the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series. And since updates are always automatic, you don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
Well done and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to post-race coverage from this, the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, where Gregor Hutu made it, 7 wins in a row in the series in his Team Redline machine. For those of you who are just joining us, where you've been, you missed an entire race. Will Vincent here on RaceSpotTV. Don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter, at Will Vincent. Also, facebook.com/I am Will Vincent as well. To run through then, one more time, your top 10. Gregor Hutu claiming victory from Ollie Picala by 2.3 seconds when all was said and done. Third place goes to Martin Kroenke. Fourth place, Alexei Usiakola. Mitchell de Jong in 5th position. Kazuki Omishima 6th. Ilka Happada, Hugo Luis, Andre Borcher, Yuhu Abe rounds out your top 10. And we are going to have a chat with the guys who came home 2nd and 3rd in this race. We'll start, of course, with Ollie Picala coming home 2nd place in that Glacier Racing car. Ollie, it was a tough drive. At one point, it looks as though that either yourself, Hutu, or Kroenke could win it. Unfortunately, wasn't quite close enough for you.
Yeah, the most difficult part was in this race was that start when I lost a few positions to guys. Guys took a really good starts and I failed it. So I left behind the Kazuki. So basically, my first stint was really bad and I lost a lot of seconds to Gregor and Martin. I had to defend 3-stopper Hugo and try to overtake 2-stopper Kazuki, who made a lot of mistakes. But yeah, interesting race and interesting this new build.
Interesting race, and it's the most strategic race we've seen here as well. You, of course, were on a two-stop strategy. Pretty much same strategy as Gregor Houtu. He came onto pit road at exactly the same time as him. Martin Kroenke, of course, on a three-stop strategy. Was that one that you were worried about potentially Kroenke getting the jump on you?
Yeah, of course, because I tried to three-stopper, and I knew that it was fast, but we didn't know how it will pan out in the race. So until Martin's last pit stop, I didn't know where he will be when he comes out. So I really didn't know. Just tried to push as much as I could, and yeah, lucky for me, I got ahead of Martin after the pit. So it was difficult spot. I didn't know at all.
It's been a difficult race, but you get yourself another second place here. And of course, in 2 weeks' time, we go to a track where you really set the series on fire. When we kicked off the series, we go back to circuit Spa-Francorchamps. You're looking forward to returning there. Of course, we go now to a sequence of tracks. We've been there before, and you were very good at these tracks at the start of the season.
Yeah, I definitely wait this rest of the season because there will be real F1 tracks, Interlagos, Spa, Suzuka, Circuit of the Americas. I hope I have a momentum there, and like you saw it in the early phases of the season, I had a bit of pace, and now I have more experience than we first headed to the Spa. So I'm waiting a lot for the rest of the season.
Very quickly, do you know that this is a real Grand Prix track? They raced here 2 times in 94 and 95. Schumacher won both times and there was 0 overtaking, but yeah. So, final thoughts as well. Yourself and Yakola had a bit of a mid-season slump. It looks as though you're back. What is your overall aim now for completing out this championship? Is it to just get as many points as possible? Are you trying to get second, third in the championship?
Yeah, obviously we are pretty close to Martin and Hugo, so we are fighting for the third and second position in the championship. Gregor is so far away, and another win for him, so he's alien and super fast. So the aim for us will be the second and the third position. Nobody knows what will happen in the rest of the season, but it will be definitely very interesting.
Well, thank you very much. Ollie Picard coming home second place in this event here today. So, well done. Would you like to say some words in Finnish before we let you go?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Ei mitään, kiitoksia Aleksille ja tiimille ja sponsoreille, Tata Litteralle ja Glacier TVlle. Meillä oli tiukka kisa, vähän jäätiin startissa surkeilemaan sinne taakse ja Kasuki teki virheitä eessä ja ekalla stintillä ja Hugo veti 3 stopperilla siinä takana, niin se oli kyllä hankala vaihe ja kusin semmoisen 10 sekuntia ja voittotaistelu siinä, mutta toiseksi silti oli aika mahtava kakkostintti ja kolmostintillä sitten pidettiin vaan paikkaa. Mielenkiintoinen kisa, tulkaa ihmeessä katsomaan, nuo lopukkikisat tulee vielä jännempää. Kiitoksia. Thank you, Will.
No worries, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks' time when the series heads back over to circuit to Spa-Francorchamps. Ollie Picard coming home second place here today. Now the guy behind him who came home third, Martin Kroenke. Martin, it looks as though at one point it potentially could have worked out. Did you think that you could have got the victory here today?
Difficult to say. In theory, from my calculations, the 3-stopper seemed to be a tiny bit faster by like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, something like that. And initially, I knew that I need to pass everyone in front of me in my first stint very quickly, which obviously was very lucky for me that it happened so early. And yeah, it just didn't play out because after the first and the second pit stop, I think, I had some cars in front of me that I couldn't overtake as quickly, and I lost a little bit of time. After, like, when you are like 1.5 or 1 second behind the guy in front, the downforce isn't really that good anymore, and I just lost a little bit too much time there.
I mean, that's one of the things we noticed at the end of the race as well, was that dirty air was really difficult for you. Did you set that car up in such a way today, knowing the fact that you would have had a chance to potentially get the lead early and drive away, or was it one of those things that you still had that balance in there and it was just, you know, almost impossible to overtake here?
I did set the car up in a way that it's as fast as it can possibly get when running alone, because I knew that overtaking was pretty much impossible here anyway, so there's no point in running a longer 7th gear to make overtaking easier or something like that. I just tried to make it basically a qualifying setup which works over 30 laps or so, or 20, and then that's it.
And again, what's happened now is you've been able to move yourself into 2nd place in the championship, ahead of your own teammate, no less, Hugo Louise. Good thought for you, bad thoughts, or is it just, you know, another race in the book and a case of let's go and get the next one in 2 weeks' time at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps?
Well, it's just another race in the books, basically. That's basically actually what I was fighting for. I was planning on finishing ahead, or at least I was hoping to do that, and it seemed to happen, yeah.
Okay, and 2 weeks' time we go back to Spa. Of course, you were pretty strong at Spa 2 weeks ago, earlier on in the season. Is there another opportunity, not only for yourself to get yourself another podium, again, potentially get a win? Is it now a chance for the rest of the Friday Motorsports team to really get their season back into gear?
Hopefully, but yeah, with a new build and with a new tire degradation, it's a bit difficult to make any forecast now, based on the fact that Spa is a completely different track characteristic than Okayama, and we are not exactly sure what, how it's gonna play out. If that was just a lucky setup now this time, that it worked pretty nicely, or whether we can repeat it.
Well, thanks for joining us. Before you go, do you want to say anything in German to your fans?
No, not necessarily. I would just like to thank the team and our sponsor for Racer for the support.
Well, not to worry, Martin Kroenke here, coming home in the 3rd position in that Friday Motorsports car. We're also going to talk to one of the heroes of the event. Thank you very much, Martin. Mitchell de Jong coming home 5th place here today in his car. Now, Mitchell, it's been a race that you've been waiting for a very long time. You, of course, previously qualified for a race in the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series, but wasn't able to take the green flag. Were you happy today that you're actually able to finally get a race under your belt? And how satisfying is it to make that a top 5 finish?
Absolutely. I messed up in qualifying quite a lot, 3/10 from my best. So to be able to start 7th was great, and I just kind of tried to stay patient and not overdrive, and it paid out in the end.
And we're having a look back at some of your moments from this event. But overall, your race has been one which has been mainly filled with speed, as we're just having a look at the first part of your race. But when you put it all into perspective, was this one more of a learning curve for you? Or is it a race that, you know, you're going to come back with disappointment for not being able to get any higher?
Definitely, it was a great learning experience. I put my first lap down on Thursday night. I put about 15 down, and then yesterday was my first official testing. I spent a lot of time trying to get used to the track, and I was just hoping to make top 10, but to finish 5th in my first race, I can't complain.
And of course, you've got a great organisation behind you with the Orion Racing team. How much has the likes of Ilka helped you out on that one, and the rest of the guys from Orion, to really getting yourself acclimatised to the World Championship Series?
Oh, it's a huge help. I mean, we all work so well together. We're always making changes to the setup together, talking about it, and it just helps when you have extra motivation to try and push yourself more, and you're always trying to find a little bit out of it. It's just a great team, and I'm glad to be over here.
And with the numbers looking as though you might have the opportunity to get into some more races this year, are you looking to take forward in any more events as the season continues to wind down?
Yeah, I'd like to for sure. I have some real-life racing commitments, so once I see I have some open time, I will definitely try my best to be back.
And of course, you've got yourself locked in to the 2014 iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. Final thing really on that one, does this race here today make that first race of the Pro Series now that little bit easier, knowing the fact that you don't need to deal with the nerves as much?
Yeah, definitely to race with all the guys that were in the top 10. Really, everyone's so fast, and the times are so close. I think it's great to get it one under the belt before the Pro Series, and hopefully it starts off well.
And I've been asking the other guys to say anything in their native language. Would you like to say anything in American? Just unfair.
That's about it. Yeah, got it.
Not to worry. Mitchell de Jong coming home 5th place in this event here today. Our highest placed pro driver, and also one of the first drivers this season to be able to race up and get themselves into the top 5. So congratulations to Mitchell de Jong for that accomplishment. And don't forget, you can check him out a little bit later on this year in the iRacing.com Pro Series of Road Racing. Looking high above then from the Okayama International Racing Circuit. And it's about time for us to say goodbye now. But before we do, we'll run through one more time your final race results. There you see it. Gregor Hutu winning 7 wins in a row. 2.3 seconds the gap between himself and Ollie Picard. Martin Kroenke 3rd. 4th place Alexei Usiakola. Then Mitchell de Jong, Kazuki Yamashima, Ilka Hapala, Hugo Louise, Andre Borgia, and Yuhu Abe round out your top 10. As you see, the rest of the qualifying times, the race times coming up there on your screen. Just going to see whether we have got updated championship standings for you before we go off air. And you see a good finish there by a couple of these drivers. Isaac Price was able to rally back, same with Jake Sturgis, but overall, disappointing finish there for Jake Sturgis. And then we go down onto the final page of results. Biggest loser, really, Enzo Benito, out with a technical glitch. Ricky Redatalo, Simon Cattell, Lee Thompson, Polio Mulia, Alex Simpson, and Jeremy Boutaloop all classified as out of the race. And we have got your updated championship standings. 468 points now for Gregor Hutu, 329 for Martin Kroenke, 323 for Hugo Louise. So, confirmation there, Martin Kroenke now ahead of Louise in the championship. Pretty close though. You've got Oli Picard in 4th, Alexei Usiakola in 5th, and then Jake Sturgis, Andre Borgia, Enzo Benito, Isaac Price, and Alex Simpson round out your top 10 in the championship. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to say goodbye here from the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. Don't forget, plenty more action coming your way on RaceSpotTV. We've got ISOWC action for Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course a little bit later on today. And on next Friday, we have got ourselves the second round of the 2014 Season 3 IndyCar Road Series. They broke the record for the strength of field last time out. They are looking to give a great race once again as they go over to the Watkins Glen International Circuit. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the 12th round of the championship as the series returns to Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. That will be at 1:30 p.m. for qualifying, build-up, then the race itself here on RaceSpotTV and iRacing Live. Don't forget the next round of the NASCAR Peak Anti-Free Series powered by iRacing.com takes place on August 12th. 50 laps around the road course, Watkins Glen International on PSR TV, MRN, the Motor Racing Network, and iRacing Live as well. This has been a RaceSpot TV presentation of the 11th round of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series. From myself, Will Vincent, thank you very much for watching. Follow me on Facebook, facebook.com/IamWillVincent or @WillVincent on Twitter. And we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.